Welcome to the third episode of my YouTube channel. Here, we're going to focus on near-death experiences and the people that live them, through bite-sized and digestible content. The third case today is that of a wealthy model's. This is the near-death experience of Dianne Sherman, and this is Our Unthreaded Costume. Dianne grew up in a wealthy Hollywood neighborhood. Coming from a wealthy family, Dianne lived a lavish lifestyle. However, Dianne never felt like she could fit into the snobbery facade and the elitism. She never understood it. She considered herself a misfit growing up. As a child, Dianne also considered herself a psychic. Growing up with an abusive, alcoholic father, Dianne instinctively could always tell when trauma or disaster was going to strike the family. When Dianne entered her 30s, she was completely lost in life. She did not know where to turn. Dianne was a model for 17 years, and by the end of it, both of her parents had died and she was a mother of a single child. Dianne found herself hopeless, and in all of this confusion, she decided that she needed to go to church. So Dianne did exactly that. She dropped to her knees in front of God and pleaded for clarity. And 3 days later is when God sent her near-death experience. In 1971, Dianne says that she hurt her leg in a trip while swimming in Mexico. Fast forward in the year is 1981, 10 years later, and she is now deciding to get a surgery to fix exactly that. Dianne says that she felt rather confident about her surgery. But before they could put her under the knife, she panicked and she passed out before she could be put under anesthesia. And this is where Dianne's near-death experience starts. Dianne says that she found herself incredibly disoriented, but she says that she heard a voice coming from the side of her. It was the doctor saying, "Dianne, wake up, wake up." Dianne started to look around the hospital room, and she found herself at the foot of a bed. She decided to look and see who was in the bed, and that is when she realized it was herself. She says that she had no physical connection to the body, but she also didn't have a care in the world about it either. Dianne states that she barely could recognize her body, and that it had nothing to do with her. In that moment, when Dianne realized that, she was pulled into the corner of the room and she was looking at everything from a bird's eye view. The doctors doing the surgery, the sweat on their faces, and the lifeless corpse laying in the bed. And while Dianne looked at the scene around her, she said to herself, "I have no business here." And in that exact moment, Dianne was pushed forward and pulled back and shot into a very dark space. Dianne says that she was scared. She was full of fear, but she kept looking around for a light. And eventually, she found one, a small speck of light in the distance. And as she concentrated on this light, it eventually got bigger and bigger, until it engulfed her completely. Dianne says it was like she was sitting in the clouds. It was of a whiteness that she's never seen, but it also had multiple other colors inside of it. It was iridescent almost. Dianne says that the white light was all that she could see, feel, or experience. And the only word that she could describe it as was unconditional love.
Wow.
And just like the other near-death experiences that I've talked about on this channel, Dianne says that she has never felt more comfortable and safe in her entire life. Dianne says that she was satiated beyond her wildest beliefs and concerns and fantasies. And as Dianne found herself floating in this light, she found herself going through it and parting it. It was separating and dividing. Dianne says that underneath her, when she looked down, she saw 2 rows of monks, hundreds of monks in brown robes with candles. She says that she could feel the love radiating from them. And as Dianne is floating through this corridor of monks, she finally stops at the end, and a singular monk steps out from them and greets her. She says that this monk had no face, but instead underneath his hood it was a silhouette of glistening sparkles this iridescent light. It was an ethereal energy underneath the hood. She says that it was natural and it was familiar, and it made sense to her. She says that telepathically speaking, the monk said to her, "Dianne, this is not your time." Dianne then says to the monk, and I quote, "I have finally got to know what it feels like to be cherished. You cannot send me back. I have come home." Dianne says that the monk then reminded her that she had a child and that she must go back. And within a flash, Dianne was sent back to her body in the hospital room. Dianne would then go continue living her life and raising her child, and she would understand that something special happened to her that day. And that is the end of Dianne Sherman's near-death experience. And that is where I will leave you